We're about to dive into one of the most powerful and practical books of philosophy ever written. And get this, it wasn't written by some guru on a mountaintop. It was the private journal of a Roman emperor, a guide on how to find peace, not by conquering the world, but by conquering yourself. Okay, let's just start with the most jarring idea in the whole book. Nothing is good but virtue, and nothing but vice is bad. Think about that for a second. Your health, your wealth, pleasure, pain, none of it, according to the Stoics, is actually good or bad. They're what's called indifference. Why? Because they don't define who you are as a person. The only thing that really, truly matters is your character, your virtue. It's a pretty radical thought, right? Especially when you find out who was writing it.
That's right. The guy writing these notes to himself wasn't hiding away in a monastery. He was Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome. He was commanding armies, ruling over millions, literally holding the fate of the known world in his hands. And this was the philosophy he was scribbling down, just for himself, to get through the day. And that right there is the huge paradox of this guy's life. He was the master of the world, but his real quest was to master himself. He was this peaceful philosopher who had to be a warrior, a magnificent emperor who just wanted a quiet life. His entire existence was this constant tug-of-war between the absolute chaos of the Roman Empire and his own personal search for inner peace. And when we say pressure, we're not talking about a bad day at the office. The scale of what he was dealing with is just mind-blowing. We're talking about constant, brutal wars on the frontiers of the empire, a plague that wiped out millions of his people, and even betrayal from his most trusted general. And on top of all that, he suffered unimaginable personal loss, outliving at least 8 of his 13 kids. And through it all, he wrote. These notes, this book, it was a private exercise. It was his way of just trying to stay sane and stay virtuous. So how in the world did he do it? Well, he had a toolkit, a set of mental tools that come straight from Stoic philosophy. And the first tool, the most important one in the entire kit, is all about figuring out what you actually have power over. This is the foundation of everything. The Stoics called it the Dichotomy of Control. It sounds fancy, but it's a really simple and really profound idea. Some things in life are up to us, and some things are not. And the secret to a peaceful life, they said, is to pour all of your energy into the things that are up to you and to learn to accept the things that aren't. So let's break that down. Look at the left column. Things not in your power. Your health, ultimately. Your wealth. What other people think of you. Chasing these things, basing your happiness on them is just a recipe for disaster. But now look at the right. The things in your power. Your judgments, your desires, and your choice to act. That's your kingdom. That's where all your real power is. So here's the takeaway. Marcus realized that no matter how insane the world got, no matter the wars, the plagues, the betrayals, he always had a place he could go to find peace. And it wasn't some country estate, it was his own mind, his own soul. That was the one fortress he could retreat to at any second and find total calm. Okay, so the next tool in the kit basically builds on top of that inner fortress. It's about shifting your perspective. It's about zooming out from your tiny little personal problems and seeing the truly big picture. I absolutely love this quote. He's asking us to do a mental exercise. Some people call it the view from above. Just imagine for a second that you're floating in space, looking down on Earth. All our cities, our arguments, our personal dramas, they just shrink. They become insignificant. Your problems, your anxieties, they suddenly look like what they are. Just a tiny little speck in the vastness of everything. And from that cosmic perspective, the stuff we stress about every day starts to look, well, kind of silly. Fame? Marcus reminds himself that everyone who knows you will be dead soon and you'll be forgotten. Praise from others. It comes from people who change their minds every 5 minutes. And your worries, they don't come from events. They come from your opinion about those events. It just makes holding a grudge or stressing about the future seem like a total waste of the very short time we have here. Now, a really important point here. This doesn't mean you should just throw your hands up and do nothing. That's a huge misunderstanding of Stoicism. The goal isn't to be passive. It's to understand that the universe has a rational order to it, a natural flow, and your job is to align your actions with that flow, to work with nature for the good of everyone. Which brings us to the final, and honestly, the most critical part of the whole toolkit. Because this isn't just a thought experiment. The entire point of all of this is to turn that inner mindset into actual external action. So what does that actually look like? On a Tuesday morning, how does an emperor, or how do any of us,
Take this philosophy and actually live it. Marcus brings it right down to the very first decision you make every day. When that alarm goes off and you just want to stay in bed, he tells himself to remember his purpose. You weren't created to stay warm under the covers. You were made to get up and do the work of a human being, to contribute, to act. Your very nature demands it. And from his writings, you can basically pull out this 4-step daily practice. First, cut out everything that's not essential. Just focus on what really matters. Second, whatever you do, do it with integrity and purpose. Third, remember that you're part of a community. Your actions should always serve the greater good. And finally, and this is a big one, approach every single thing you do with the urgency and importance as if it were the last thing you'll ever do. So, we've spent this time trying to understand the wisdom of a Roman emperor. But the real power of this book, the Meditations, isn't just in understanding it. It's in trying to live it. When it comes right down to it, this is the Stoic recipe for a good life. It has absolutely nothing to do with your job title or how much money you have. Happiness is an inside job. It's about having a good character, good intentions, and doing good things. That's it. That is the prize. So I want to leave you with a final thought, a question that really gets to the absolute heart of this entire philosophy. Just take a moment and really think about it. If you stripped away all the external stuff you can't really control, your job, your money, what other people think of you, what's left? Who are you at your core? And based on that, what is the work you were put here to do? That's the question Marcus Aurelius was asking himself almost 2,000 years ago, and it is just as powerful and just as important for every one of us today.